What defines a knockoff? And who makes the decision that we all believe when it comes to knockoffs, and why do we choose to believe them? Are they facts or are they just opinions? I'm definitely not a patent owner, and I definitely do not have any legal education in the matter, yet I find myself talking to the public as if I do from time to time, as do other people such as me, myself, and Pi. I came to the conclusion that nobody besides the inventors and patent owners of these puzzles knows the truth, and it's about time that I educate myself so I can have a basic understanding of knockoffs and give credit where credit is deserved. I am going to throw away any personal opinion of certain twisty puzzle companies to come to a more educated personal conclusion.
Warning, the following video should be used for educational purposes and in no way reflects an absolute 100% truth. The script, pictures, and videos shown in this video are opinions and should be treated as such. Use your own logic to conclude an opinion of your own. Or don't.
Rubik's, Mufang, Diane Shang, Mosey, MFA, Cube for You, Diane, Lanlan, Maru, Ai, Ghost Hand, YJ, QJ, V-Cube, Mefferts, Calvin's Puzzle, Wit Eden, Okamoto, Cube Twist, Lingayo, Shengshao, Z-Cube, Ishin, Edison, Alpha, Type F, Shang N, Haiyan. So, who knocked off who? It's very hard to tell these days. There's so many brands, so many opinions. We're not lawyers and we're not the patent office. All we do is watch YouTube videos, listen to people with the most subscribers, and trust what they have to say without any actual evidence. We hear major companies saying other companies are making illegal products, infringing their patents, having PayPal accounts shut down, therefore proving this is true, right? You know, I'm not so sure anymore, at least not in all cases. It's impossible to know all cases, so let's just focus on the controversial brands for now. V-Cubes and X-Cubes, more specifically the V-Cube 4 and X-Cube 4. I think we all know the claims that V-Cubes have made against other companies stating that they have been knocked off and illegal cubes have been made. Of course there have been. The Euxin 11x11 is probably one of the most recognizable and blatantly obvious of the V-Cube knockoffs at first appearance. Other companies such as Shengshao have taken the V-Cube design, altered it slightly, made small modifications to it, and in some cases reshaped the outside of the puzzle and sold it without V-Cube's permission, making it a knockoff. An improved knockoff at that, in my opinion, but other brands such as QJ have made 100% replicas of V-Cubes and should definitely be deemed as a knockoff puzzle and not made it better. Worse, in fact, but that's a matter of opinion. Many people wonder how these companies can possibly be knocking off V-Cubes when V-Cubes have not yet produced an 8x8, 9x9, or 11x11. The reason for this is because V-Cubes have already invented the product and patented them, but not yet released them to the public. Imagine yourself having a brilliant idea, but don't yet have the means to produce it, and you want to protect it in the meantime, so you patent it. You have to make your patent public, though, so that people can see it and not use the same idea. Making it public releases the information to the outside world, though. Then somebody comes along, sees your idea that you've put so much money into protecting, disregards the law, and starts producing your product without your permission, and they didn't have to do any work that you did. They just stole yours. You may not have produced the product yet, but you did the work to invent it, paid for the patent to protect it, and then watched other companies steal it from you. That is why V-Cube's bigger puzzles have been knocked off before they are produced yet. I hope this clears up any confusion on this. But what about V-Cube's smaller puzzle claims? Disregarding obvious knockoffs such as the Shengshao and QJ products, let's take a closer look at companies like the X-Cubes and Diane. Let's start with the X-Cube 4. We'll get back to Diane. At first glance, we can see the similarities between the X-Cube 4 and the V-Cube 4. It's understandable that many people would confuse the X-Cube 4 as being a knockoff of the V-Cube 4 because of this. I'm sure that we are all aware by now that the V-Cube 4's core and misalignment mechanism does not follow the picture in their patent, and the misalignment mechanism is completely changed. No more clicking mechanism. I think we're actually missing a puzzle here, a puzzle that not many people have taken into consideration, the Eastsheen 4x4. The Eastsheen 4x4 was invented and patented in the 1980s using the mechanism you see in front of you. Does this look a bit familiar to you? It does to me. The Eastsheen 4x4 mechanism uses a hidden fifth layer underneath the two middle layers, just like the V-Cube 4. It has little T-shaped pieces, just like the V-Cube 4. Has hidden edge pieces to connect those little T-shaped pieces, just like the V-Cube 4. These pieces combined make a core for the other pieces to hook into, again, just like the V-Cube 4. You can see here that the mechanism to keep the Eachine 4x4 in alignment is a block in the middle of the core. Let's keep that in mind. Moving on to the edges, you can see a similarity between the Eachine edges and the VCube 4 edges, how they would hook into the similar core. Here are the corner pieces of the Eachine 4x4 that hook under the edge to stay in place, as does the VCube 4. We can see the Eachine 4 centerpiece hook into the center of the core, as does the VCube 4. Let's keep in mind that the Eachine 4x4 came out in the 1980s. VCube's patent was filed many years after this. Of course, the VCube 4 patent does not have the same alignment mechanism. It has to change. So VCube's invented the clicking mechanism. Now, I am no rocket scientist, but what it looks like is the Eachine 4x4 was reinvented by VCubes. VCubes seem to have made slight alterations to the Eachine, such as making everything rounder, making it more spherical, adding a different clicking mechanism and calling it their own technology, basically just changing its basic geometry. Somebody at the office of VCubes once told me in reference to VCube knockoffs, the fact that they are copying 100% our mechanism and then adding some small round or mods does not make them legitimate. But isn't this what VCube just did to the Eachine mechanism? Took the design, rounded things off, making mods such as adding the clicking mechanism and then calling it their own? This is just conspiracy at this point. But hasn't it always been all along? The evidence is almost overwhelmingly obvious, but not provable. There's also the option that VCubes actually didn't have any idea of the Eachine mechanism and invented it all over again, but I honestly doubt that. This is all legal, however, because the Eachine patent has been long expired and anybody can do anything they want with it now. However, they shouldn't be claiming it's new technology or original by any means. It's just an altered copy of the Eachine design, as we just saw voiced from somebody at the VCube company. If VCubes can alter the Eachine mechanism, change the shape, and add a mod like the clicking mechanism, why can't another company? Let's move on to the X-Cube 4. After speaking with the inventor of the X-Cube 4, XB27, he told me, in fact, I want to knock off VCubes initially, but I thought they will never make the lower layer cubes. I thought they will keep making higher layer cubes up to 11x11. But I thought everybody really needs a better 4x4 than Eachine or Rubik's. I made the first prototype you can see here. XB27 continues to explain, after making this X-Cube first prototype, I noticed that VCube did have a patent of 2x2 through 11x11 cube. I thought it's bad to infringe VCube's patent, so I use my mechanism now, as you can see, which is developed from Eachine 4x4 geometrically. After testing both two structures, I still think VCube's structure is better than the variation of Eachine. With my principle of not to knock off others' design, I left the better structure to VCubes. I know it's crazy to persuade people to believe that my cube is the same geometry as Eachine instead of VCubes, because my cube looks so much like VCubes, but we can't just judge if a cube is a knockoff or not just by what it looks like. We have to judge it geometrically. Here we can see how easy it is to make the Eachine 4x4 pieces into the X-Cube 4 pieces by altering them in a 3D program. When you alter one piece, the program automatically alters the rest of the pieces to fit the altered piece. Here we can see the VCube 4 pieces being altered into the X-Cube 4 pieces by using a different geometry. Notice the difference in the corners, especially how on the VCube 4 the stock is much thinner with a much bigger base in the XCube 4. This is due to the geometry change. As we can see how the Eachine 4x4 was changed geometrically into the spherical VCube 4, as well as the misalignment change from the Eachine 4 to the clicking mechanism of the VCube 4, we can now also see the Eachine 4 was changed into the XCube using the same cylindrical geometry as Eachine and also adding a different misalignment mechanism as you can see here. These bumps on the center pieces keep the inner layers in alignment, as I'm sure we've all seen from companies also using this idea, including the new VCube 4. I think it is obvious that the XCube 4 is just as different from the VCube 4 as the VCube 4 is from the Eachine 4. The XCube 4 and the VCube 4 have different geometry from each other and both have an original misalignment mechanism. Well, that was until VCube started using the XCube misalignment mechanism. This is why the XCube 4 is allowed to have a patent, because the geometry is different than the VCube 4. The VCube has spherical geometry and the XCube 4 has cylindrical geometry, just like the Eachine 4. The problem with this is that everybody has just heard that the alignment mechanism in the XCube 4 is actually me, myself, and Pi's invention, just applied at a mass-produced level in professionalism. And why do we think this? Simply because me, myself, and Pi has no understanding of how different his pin mod is from the mechanism of the XCube 4. Me, myself, and Pi has certainly taken the credit for this multiple times, even seeming somewhat annoyed that he is not being given proper credit for this.
So it's looking very much that the VCube used my mechanism, but they're actually not the first. The XCube 4 that I mentioned earlier uses this exact same design. So it's pretty cool to see my pin modification being implemented into the cube. Would have been nice if both companies had given me credit for it, but I'm not worried too much about that. I suppose there is a slim chance that the VCube company did come up with it on their own.
Me, myself, and Pi has also gone on to say, guys, if you are going to stoop so low as to steal a mechanism and make money off of it, can you really blame the original designer for using any improvements you come up with? Also, if a country like Taiwan allows a cube to be repatented without regard to already existing patents, I have little respect for it. In the very least, the VCube 4 has the most original design out of both the XCube and Shangshao. Let's break this down. It's clear that the XCube 4 is no different to the Eachine 4 as the VCube 4 is, and it is patented because of the geometrical differences. For this reason, the XCube 4 is not a knockoff. That would be like saying the VCube 4 is a knockoff of Eachine as well. Because of this, the improvements like the alignment mechanism of XB27 is original and VCubes have no right to use it. Taiwan allows the XCube 4 to be patented because it does not have the same geometry as VCubes and it has a different misalignment mechanism and therefore so different that it can be repatented, the same way VCubes did to Eachine. The part where he said the VCube 4 has the most original design is now bogus, as it is just a variation of a cube from the 1980s and uses a currently patented alignment mechanism instead of their own original clicking mechanism, which they don't even use anymore. Pi has even gone on to what seems to accuse XB27 of lying by saying, "We're both assuming that XB27 is telling the truth that he didn't get the idea from me." I personally think this is a very bold accusation to make without any evidence at all. However, I believe that everything me, myself, and Pi has said about the XCube 4's mechanism being a ripoff of his pin mod was justified at the time because me, myself, and Pi is uneducated in this manner and was doing what we all do, make our own opinions and voice them. Hopefully this video that XB27 made for me explaining clearly the difference between the XCube 4 alignment and Pi's pin mod will educate all of you just as it did myself.
Hello, I'm XCuber. In this video, I'm gonna talk about the difference between my XCube alignment mechanism and the Pi mod. I made both clear cubes here. This one is original XCube with the mechanism marked by red stickers. And this one, I just marked it into the Pi mechanism and I also marked it with red, as you can see. Before going to the mechanism, I have to explain why there's such an alignment system in the 4x4 cube. Just imagine that you have a 5-layered cube, but you cannot touch the inner layer. What will happen? sometimes the inner layer will go out of alignment, like this. But in a 4x4 cube, you won't be able to know that. So you will just feel, why I cannot move it? Wow. So we need to do something to improve this problem, because I like to move it. I like to move it. Okay, here we have original X cube. See, there are red bumps on each side. And let's move only the outer layer to see what happens. In each side, whatever I move it, the red sticker remains in the same place. And when I split the middle layer, it goes with the side which have red stickers, like this. It goes with right, and in this case, it goes with left. And let's see the pie mechanism. On the top side, the inner centerpiece, I replace it to white with two edges stuck on it, which will lock one outer centerpiece stay here forever, so I mark it with red. And those four sides have each pins pointed upward to the white piece, which lock the middle layer with the top hemicube, like this. And if we move outer layer of each four sides, the pin won't move by it. But if we go to the top side, the red just move with the outer layer, as you can see here, which will change the alignment. Like this case, it goes with right, but here it goes with left. But this won't happen in X cube. Whatever I move it, the alignment system just stay in the same place. And also, when it comes to the alignment system, we will have three axes to manage, like X, Y, Z. And in X cube, all of them are managed by the bumps on the inner centerpiece. With each bump can manage two axes, like this one. Can manage this axis and also this axis. But in pie mod, the four pins all manage the same axis, and while the other two axes is all managed by this one. So that means the pins only gives weights of 33% in this alignment system. So we have several conclusions here. First, X cube alignment system won't change by any outer layer move, but the pie mod does. And second, the bumps in the X cube manage all three axes, but the pins of pie mod is only one of them. Third, the pins is added on the screw, while the bumps is on the inner center piece's plastic. So that's all the difference between two mechanisms. I hope you can distinguish them by this video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
It is very clear to me, and hopefully all of you, that the X-Cube4 misalignment mechanism is very different from Pi's mod, and me, myself, and Pi should stop taking credit for something that he did not invent. Of course, most people believe me, myself, and Pi because he has the most subscribers of all cubing channels, and people just assume his word is final because he's famous. I see people thinking the same thing about Red KB as well, Throst, Monkey Dude 1313, and even myself. People believe this because they are told by higher authority without any actual proof. People are just taking credit because they feel they can. They are wrong. Remember, just because we have higher subscribers doesn't mean we know everything all the time. It means we make videos that people like and nothing more. I contacted XB27 and asked him, when you created this mechanism, did you know about me, myself, and Pi's pin modification? And if so, did you use it as an inspiration to create your model? His reply was, actually, I had heard the pin mod when I create my mech, but just heard it by other cubers. Not to realize how does it work, since I thought adding pins in a cube is a crazy way to make the cube crappy. never does it become my inspiration of my design. Now that I believe I have given substantial evidence towards the fact that pi has nothing to do with the X-Cube4 mechanism that has also been used in many puzzles, including the new VCube4, I'd like to also show appreciation to what he's done. It's because of his pin mod that's allowed Kevin Hayes to break and currently hold the world record using a pi-modded VCube6, something that couldn't have been done without the work of me, myself, and pi, something he should and probably does feel pretty proud of. His mod has helped many cubers, including myself, alter their VCube6 into a more enjoyable experience, as well as it's just plain smart. Me, myself, and pi has definitely made an impact and a good contribution to the community by making his pin mod, so thank you very much, pi. Additionally, we can't deny the improvements that VCubes have made to the Ishin mechanism and applied it to higher order cubes. In fact, the VCube6 is the same design as the VCube4, just more layers, and so on with the 8x8. So could it be speculated that Ishin could have used their mechanism to create a 6x6, 7x7 or higher? Yes, it's the same design. In fact, XB27 did just that. He created the X-Cube7, and not only did he create one where all the cubies are proportional to each other and not have that fatter outer layer like the VCube7 does. VCubes can't do this because of the geometrical changes they made to the Ishin 4x4. XP27 did not change the geometry of the Ishin 4x4 the same way VCubes did, and this is why his version allows to have proportional cubies and still be fully functional. So it should be argued that XP27 is just as original as VCubes, even being able to make the cubies proportional, something VCubes could not do. Speaking with somebody at VCubes, I was told, we at VCubes will continue to work our plan to establish a brand known to the worldwide toy industry and take the market share from the old company, meaning the Rubik's brand, that belong to us, and develop in the best possible way our products, even if sometimes we take advantage of minor adjustments that the Chinese thieves are doing to our technology. Seeing something like this that shows VCubes couldn't be bothered to educate themselves as to if somebody actually did knock off their products. In the case of the X-Cube4, it is not a knockoff with their original patent alignment mechanism, which XB27 did not give VCubes permission to use. Sometimes we see things that people with authority say that make us think differently though, such as Isavire, who said, XB27 shared his X-Cube idea with Shangshao and Verdes through email and gave them the good to go to use his idea. But X-Cube27 has publicly stated, actually, I didn't give it to KV, who's an important person at VCubes, and also said, he never even contacted me about it. He just used it without my permission. So where Isavire is getting his facts that he's telling the public, I have no idea, but they are lies as you can clearly see. From all the evidence I have found and compiled together, I have come to many conclusions based on personal opinion. First, the X-Cube4 is not a knockoff. Second, the X-Cube4 alignment mechanism is original and me, myself, and pi should stop taking credit for inventing something he didn't invent. Third, VCubes have just altered an existing cube from the 1980s and called it their own revolutionary technology, which is not really the case as it's just a variation of something that already existed and just applied to more layers. Fourth, VCubes have taken the technology from the X-Cube4 without the patent owner's permission. And finally, I have learned a lot from actually doing research and not just talking out my mouth like I know everything. You may be asking yourself, why does CrazyBadCuber care about this so much? Why the opinions of VCubes like this? And the answer is pretty simple. VCubes are a known company for accusing everybody of stealing their technology, shutting down people's PayPal accounts, trying to get cubes off the market, and also stealing other people's ideas without any explanation at all. If VCubes didn't make such a big deal all the time about their patent being violated, myself and other people wouldn't make such a big deal when they seem to do it and offer no explanation at all. So as a result, I found an explanation, something VCubes have not given any of us. In fact, because of this lack of explanation, people have come to many very popular rumors about things. Remember when I said we'd come back to Diane? We have all heard that VCubes have tried to take the Diane cubes off the market when the Guhong came out and everybody was in a frenzy about this. Then all of a sudden the Guhong was back and VCubes stopped shutting down PayPals that sold it. One of the many popular theories is that VCubes and Diane came to a conclusion and decided to use each other's technology, and maybe that's why they have permission to use it, and that's why the V3 has torpedoes. During a conversation with somebody at VCubes, I was told the fact that in China there are no laws to protect our innovations and products does not make these products branded, meaning that VCubes cannot do anything about Chinese companies making knockoffs because in China it is not against the law to make clone puzzles. Does this make it right for them to do it? Well, of course not. But this tells us that the Diane cubes were allowed back on the market because there's nothing VCubes can do legally. This is, of course, just an opinion of mine that I have formed through conversations with VCubes. I have no facts to back this up at all. To me, though, it seems like VCubes tried to do something about it, then couldn't, and then just copied the Diane cubes, torpedoes and all, because they could, and simply because they knew it was better than their patented 3x3. I believe that they think the same thing with the X-Cube 4, which in my opinion is wrong. In the case of the X-Cube 4, they were not in the right to take a patented technology and copy it while at the same time accusing the inventor of being a thief. I personally would love to see XB27 get the recognition he deserves for his product instead of going to VCubes and Me, Myself, and Pi, because neither of which has given any substantial evidence towards what they have said besides just the voice of those with power. Again, as I said in the beginning, please use your own logic to determine your own opinions using this information. Or don't, it doesn't matter to me. Just don't adopt my opinion because I gave it, or have a voice because of the amount of subscribers I have. Use your own brain. You have your own voice. I do not know everything because I know how to make a few videos that some people like. This is simply my attempt at giving recognition back to XB27, who I believe deserves it, and it was wrong to have it taken away from him. This short documentary started out in my head as a way to voice my opinion on VCube's apparent plagiarism. But after I started getting more and more information through my research, it became more and more about getting the credit back to XB27, not targeting VCubes, and educating the public of XB27's work. It just so happened that I had to explain the VCube ordeal in order to better explain why XB27 should be given his credit back. He's only one person without an audience against others that have a big audience. He has no means to defend himself in this ordeal, so I thought it was right to do everything in my power to help him. In my personal opinion, if the VCube 4 is super great, we can probably agree that it wouldn't have been as great with the clicking mechanism, and that XB27 would have a big hand in the greatness of the VCube 4. If it is great, of course. Please do not start attacking VCubes on their Facebook page with this video. I do not want this video to be used as a way to attack VCubes by their haters. VCubes were in their legal right to modify the Ishin design if that's what they did. Knowing that in China it's not against the law to copy somebody's idea, we have no way to know that if in Greece it is against the law or not to copy somebody's idea from Taiwan. Everything here could be completely, perfectly legal, but that doesn't make it right. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on my next video.